Temples are a defining characteristic of every single Zelda game. From the top-down dungeons of the original Zelda days to the 3D masterpieces brought to us by Ocarina of Time, fans have grown to love both the adventures and the challenges that these temples have brought us over the years. Breath of the Wild, which is one of the greatest games ever made, was criticized by some fans for abandoning the traditional temple style in favor of the Divine Beast system. Now we have Tears of the Kingdom, which has taken massive steps back in the traditional direction. So today we're going to talk about how that worked out for Tears of the Kingdom as we rank its temples from worst to best. Starting things off with number 6, we have the Water Temple, which is the Zora questline. Frankly, I was a little disappointed by not just the Water Temple, but the Zora questline in general for this game. I've always felt like the Water Temple was a highlight of all the older Zelda games I played. I think back specifically to the countless hours I spent trying to figure out the Water Temple in Ocarina of Time as a kid. It was tough, but it was awesome. It helped develop my brain and my way of thinking. When people ask me why I'm such a genius, I actually point back to figuring out the Water Temple when I was 5 years old. Or at least that's what I will say when someone finally asks me why I'm a genius. That said, the Tears of the Kingdom Water Temple barely lives up to its predecessors. Starting from the top of the quest, Zora's Domain is an exotic, hidden away, watery paradise, as it usually is in Zelda games. The big problem here that we're supposed to fix is the polluted water. But what's puzzling about this issue is the fact that the Zoras can't quite seem to tell where the pollution is coming from. If you talk to Sidon, he just goes, "Yeah man, this is crazy, I have no idea where all this sludge is coming from." Meanwhile, if you look behind him, it is clearly falling from an island in the sky. This guy is the Sage of Water? Really? The quest to reach that sky island is pretty fun though. You have to go underground into a special Zora lair that creates a knock-up stream, kind of like the one from One Piece. Once we're in the sky, we get to jump around in an anti-gravity setting, which was honestly an unexpected twist. Once I reached the temple itself, my first thought was that it was a bit bland looking. I was hoping to have another watery paradise like we've had in games past, but now we have just this floating rock in the sky. Compared to other temples in the game, it's definitely lacking in the eye candy department, but oh well. On top of that, it is kind of short, so I breezed through this temple and its simple puzzles in about a half hour and never looked back. A lot of the puzzles have you cleaning up poisonous goop, and it wasn't until this point of the temple that I realized that this entire plotline is Mario Sunshine. I'd say my favorite part about this temple is the octopus boss. He is just a goofy looking creature, and I really love the change of pace here compared to some of the larger scale dragons and beasts we encounter in the game. Compare this dude to like a Gleeok, and you'd be surprised to find out that they're in the same game. Some people may say that this boss is a bit too weird, too goofy for Zelda, but I beg to differ. I think Zelda's a cartoony game inherently, and I think this guy makes up for his deficiencies in charm. The Water Temple as a whole may be a bit bland for my liking, but at least it ends on a pretty cool boss fight. At number 5, we have Hyrule Castle. And yes, I am including Hyrule Castle on this list. Now look, I know it's not really a temple in the traditional sense of the word, or really any sense of the word, but it does have its own dungeon map, so that means something. There isn't really a whole lot to say about this temple because there's no big regional phenomenon that accompanies it, but it was a nice surprise to have some battles here after finding the first 4 sages. All we're really required to do here concerning the main storyline is chase Zelda into the castle and battle the hordes of monsters that spawn whenever you catch up to her. The quest here culminates in a pretty awesome boss battle against a team of Phantom Ganons in the same room where we met Calamity Ganon in Breath of the Wild. Outside of this story segment, Hyrule Castle does serve as just a fun place to explore early in the game, where you can find stronger weapons, armor, and of course, the Hylian shield. And while I know this isn't really a temple and I don't have quite as much to say about it as some of the other things on this list, I did have more fun with it than the Water Temple. So, what does that say about the Water Temple? At number 4, we have the Spirit Temple. And I am going to be fully transparent with you here. I do have mixed feelings about this one. In fact, if I were to judge this temple strictly off the temple portion of the quest, I would barely have anything to say, other than, hey, that Rock'em Sock'em robot fight was pretty cool. Seriously, the actual Spirit Temple is just a glorified boxing ring. But what makes the Spirit Sage questline a little more interesting is everything that leads us up to the World Heavyweight Championship. The quest ranges from a stormy battle/puzzle in the swamp to a journey into the storm cloud covered Sky Islands to a Zonai factory in the depths. The Spirit Sage no longer has a physical form, which is why we need to go to the factory in the depths and build the massive Rock'em Sock'em robot. And the process of building the robot is the most entertaining part of this quest. You have to go through different puzzles to acquire each arm and leg of the machine, and I felt like these were some of the more challenging puzzles in the game. Once you've built the robot, you get one of the most unique capabilities in any Zelda game ever. You get to equip a giant robot with weapons of mass destruction and ride on its back. It can jump, it can smash, it can shoot lasers, it has everything you would want in a robot, and I was smiling from ear to ear when I played this portion of the game. It's like Transformers, but Zelda. Like I said, what's weird about this questline is that you technically don't actually go to the Spirit Temple until after the robot is built. All the stuff that takes place in the Stormy Sky Islands and the swamp and the factory isn't even a part of the Spirit Temple technically. So when I got there, I figured there would be some sort of dungeon full of puzzles that I needed the robot for. But no, just a boxing match with another robot. I do get it though, because every single thing that we have to do that leads us up to that boxing match could be a temple in and of itself, but it still did stick out to me as odd on my first playthrough. Either way, I will always cherish the championship belt I won in the Spirit Temple. At number 3, we have the Fire Temple. Now we're getting into what I think are the really solid temples. For these top 3, I really do feel like the main quest line, the sage mechanics, and the temple themselves all worked together to create really engaging experiences. The Fire Temple questline in particular had what I thought was the greatest regional phenomena of them all. The Gorons were addicted to the mysterious rock roast, and they were looking absolutely feral. Seriously, look at these guys. I want me a piece of that. But to get some, I'm gonna have to go down into the depths because that is where the Fire Temple is located. It's the first temple on this list that I feel looks a lot more like the traditional Zelda temples of games past. You can tell from the moment you enter this temple that its layout is fairly complex, with different convoluted minecart paths, all leading to different rooms where we have to solve different puzzles to unlock the boss door. Though I will admit that once the minecart paths got to be a bit difficult to navigate, I just said screw it and started climbing walls and using my glider. And I know for a fact that every single one of you watching this video right now did the exact same thing. But hey, it ain't cheating if the game design encourages it. When I got to the boss room, I was a bit disappointed because I came here thinking I could get my hands on some of that good rock roast, but the main dealer, Marbled Goma, just started attacking me. We basically have to use Yunobo's ability to go bowling on the ceiling, which is admittedly pretty awesome, but we use it to knock down this kingpin and attack his eyeball with her weapons. I do think that the Yunobo bowling mechanics make this one of the more satisfying and memorable boss fights in the game. And even though I couldn't get my hands on that marbled rock roast, I do think this temple offers one of the coolest boss fights, has a great traditional Zelda layout, and offers plenty of challenge. So I am more than confident placing it at number 3 on this list. Before we talk about the top 2, why not just hit subscribe? Because, well, then I'll have more subscribers. At number 2, we have the Wind Temple. This was the first main quest line I did, and a lot of you watching this video can probably say the same thing because the game pushes you in this direction right off the bat. And I'm glad it does, because what a way to start the game. The regional problem here is that Rito Village has frozen over because of a peculiar snowstorm. Of course, as I said earlier in reference to the Zoras, who could have just looked up in the sky to discover the source of their problems, that giant whirling storm cloud in the sky, that is clearly the issue. And what's worse here is that the Ritos actually could just fly up into the sky and see what's going on, but and none of them did that. Though I will say a large part of the fun for this quest is the journey we take with our new buddy Tulin to reach the heights of that stormy cloud. We need Tulin's help because his daddy, who helped us in Breath of the Wild, is too busy sitting on his ass watching the village freeze over. Tulin is probably my favorite new character in the game, and he expands our abilities to glide through the air, provides a serious helping hand in battle by sniping monsters with his bow. We need him to traverse this Sky Island archipelago to reach the mysterious storm cloud. The ascent to the top is such a fun sequence as we find ourselves gliding through windy areas and bouncing off the tops of flying sailboats. When we eventually reach the temple, we are greeted by a massive floating ship, which is also referred to as the legendary Stormwind arc talked about in old Rito children's stories. This is referred to by a small group of Rito children you meet right when you enter the village for the first time. So to see that interaction pay off in the form of a full-blown temple made me immediately appreciate it even more. The temple itself is fairly straightforward, its puzzles aren't too crazy, but what it lacks in challenge it makes up for in theme. A giant floating ship in the sky in the middle of a storm cloud, based on a fabled Rito story? That's pretty cool by default. One of the strongest aspects of this temple is the boss battle against Colgera. It's an epic battle that takes place entirely in the sky with your glider and your bow, which is unique by usual Zelda boss battle standards. Getting to utilize the glider and slow motion bow and arrow for a boss fight like this is just a ton of fun. and helps this temple stand out from the crowd. Between the cool theme, our awesome new partner Tulin, and the epic boss battle, the Wind Temple sits comfortably at number 2 on my list. And at number 1, we have the Lightning Temple in Gerudo Desert. From the wild regional disaster leading up to this temple to the traditional Zelda vibe, the Lightning Temple is easily my favorite temple in the game. Once we get to Gerudo Desert, we are greeted by a never-ending sandstorm that distorts our vision, map, and overall ability to traverse the desert. It forces the Gerudos into hiding beneath the surface, and out of all the regional issues we see in this game, this, in my opinion, feels like the most pressing. This was the only quest that I rolled up to and I just said, hey, I have a duty, a civic duty, to save the day here. What's more is the fact that we have literal zombies patrolling Gerudo Town. It's like a horror scene, and it reminds me of the scene from Castle Town in Ocarina of Time. This adds to the urgency of the issue in such a compelling way. These zombies, also known as Gibdos, are satisfying to defeat with the help of Riju's power, which allows us to strike entire hordes of enemies with lightning from one shot of a single arrow. And we have to fight them during these horde battles to protect Gerudo Town, which were honestly one of my favorite parts of the entire game. After completing these horde battles, we turn our attention to the actual source of the sandstorm, the Lightning Temple, which is notably the only temple that is located on the surface of the map. Every other temple is located either in the depths or in the sky, so this is kind of neat. The Lightning Temple feels like something straight out of an Indiana Jones movie, back when Indiana Jones was actually good. The labyrinth-like layout of the temple, combined with the ancient catacomb vibe and the light reflection-based puzzles, really gave me flashbacks to temples of the old days. And let's not forget about the boss. What's unique about this temple is that we get a sneak peek of the boss from the second we show up. This giant moth, called the Queen Gibdo, descends from the sky and battles us at the entrance of the temple. Once we fend her off, she retreats to the top floor of the temple until we make our way there for round 2, where she employs the help of her Gibdo army, which really livens the battle up. Because this battle has part 1 and a part 2, and because it's just an overall epic fight, it serves as the cherry on top to an already remarkable temple experience, which is why I have the Lightning Temple at number 1 on this list. What do you think of my list? Let me know in the comments below, and also let me know if you think Tears of the Kingdom went far enough in reviving traditional Zelda temples. As you can see from my top 3, I felt like the temples that were closer to traditional temples definitely were more fun, so I wonder if you think differently. If you're still here at the end of the video, don't know what I did to deserve this, so maybe you're looking for some sort of advice, in which case, don't forget to brush your teeth before bed.